I want to introduce you to functions because functions are extremely fundamental to the Wolfram language. And a function is something that you can call, and when you call a function, it will execute some specific task for you. And so the advantage of the Wolfram language is that it has lots and lots of these functions built into the language. We were just looking at all of the different domains that it covers in the last video. And so chances are there is a function that will do what it is that you're looking for that you can call and use. Just to continue with a basic math example right here, we could do addition just like we were doing addition here. But we can also do addition by calling a function. There is a function called plus, and you notice that when you start typing, you do get this drop-down list. And what you're getting a drop-down list of are all of the different functions that happen to begin with those letters, so that it kind of helps you along identifying what you may be looking for. And here is the plus function right here. And I can always get more information about any function that I would like. And in this case, if I want more information on the plus function, it pops up right over here and explains to you not only what it does, but also how to use it. In this case, the plus function is very basic because it sums a set of numbers for you. It's very handy to be able to get to help and documentation like this as you're moving through your work. So let's look down here and see what the plus function is expecting. It's written as plus, and then we have brackets, and this is a very common form in the Wolfram language to put your input into a function in brackets, and then it's expecting a list of numbers here separated by commas. And then when you execute that, it is going to return the sum of those. So I could, instead of saying 6 plus 11, well, I can put brackets, and then 6, comma, 11, close my brackets, and Shift Enter to execute that line of code, and I get 17. We can try that with more numbers as well. And execute. There we go. So which is better? Well, in this case, we're just doing addition. So whether you say 6 plus 11 or call the plus function, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get the same answer. But I'm showing you this to get you comfortable and familiar with functions, because all of the things that we want to be able to do in geospatial analysis and mapping that Wolfram Alpha can do, we do it by calling all of these different functions. Before we go on with that, let me just show you another example of a function and how we can chain them together, because I always like to look at random numbers when I'm introducing someone to programming. So let's look at how the Wolfram language handles random numbers. There is a function called random integer, and I'm going to click on it rather than typing it out. That way I know that I wrote it correctly. And I can also drop down here to get some more information on this or any function that I'm interested in employing. So I'm going to drop down here to see exactly what it's expecting to get. And notice there are several different things that you could possibly enter into this function and to get different results. It'll do different kinds of random integers for you. And this is a very common way that the Wolfram language structures its functions, rather than trying to come up with a different function for each one of these different sort of subcategories of ways we might want to get a random integer. It comes up with maybe this, what you call a master function or a super function or something like that, called random integer, and then depending on what kind of input you give to it, you'll get a different kind of output. So notice, just as the first example, if I just open and close my brackets, then it will generate either 0 or 1 randomly. In this case, I got 0. If I say random integer, and I just put one number inside the brackets, then I get this pseudo-random integer in the range from 0 all the way up to that maximum number. So if I just say 8, I should get a random number of between 0 and 8. If I wanted to try that again, I can click this gear here and say reevaluate cell. This time I got 1. If I'm doing something like adding 6 plus 11, then it doesn't matter how many times I reevaluate that cell. I'm always going to get 17. But if I'm doing something with a random component like this, when I reevaluate the cell, I could get a different result. There are other ways that we can use the random integer function, and you can look them all up in help. But before we move on, let me just show you that you can also combine functions together, which is what I want to do now. Let's say that I want to add together the number 20, and I want to add some random number to it. Well, I can do that by joining together different functions, and you're going to be doing this a lot with the Wolfram language. For instance, I can call the plus function, and the first number that I will give it is 20, but then the second number I want is a random number. And so I'm then going to call the random integer function, and I'm going to ask it for a random integer between 0 and, let's just say 63. And then close my brackets there. So I hope you see what's going on here. I'm calling the plus function, I'm going to take 20, and I'm going to add some random number between 0 and 63 to it, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and press Return, and get a calculation. In this case, the summation is 61. If I wanted to, I could execute that as many times as I wanted to. Now I get 52. So that is our basic look at the notebook environment, and also a brief introduction to functions and how we're going to use them. When we come back, we will get started with maps and geography.